Morning everyone and thank you for joining today's webinar. Today we are presenting webinar on managing our unconscious biases organized by Applied Science and Humanities Department of Parul Polytechnic Institute, Parul University. The main agenda of this webinar is to help the participants to become aware of their paradigms and how this affects the way they treat people in the workplace, and also to guide the participants to navigate through their thinking patterns and see how it impacts their unconscious biases and trigger anxiety. This will also give the participants useful tips on how to be more inclusive and therefore help to reduce anxiety in their workplace. I, Vaishali Nathwani, would like to introduce today's guest speaker, Rita Linda Derritt. She is a certified image and etiquette consultant by the Association of Image Consultants International. She finished her image mastery course at the International Image Institute of Toronto and Protocol School of Palm Beach. She finished her AP Psychology course at the De La Salle University, Manila. She is currently the president of Profile Philippines Foundation, a group that advocates the protection of family and life. She often interviewed on TV and radio and currently hosted a weekly podcast under Faith Watch. It's a privilege to welcome you here, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Madam, for that wonderful introduction. Good morning, everyone. Where I am from Manila, it is already afternoon. So maybe you have not had your lunch, but I am already finished with my lunch. I hope that you will not be hungry as I do my webinar. Unconscious biases in the workplace. So first of all, let us do some definition of terms so that we understand that we are on the same page. In the next slide, you will see, next slide please, the meaning, the definition of unconscious. What do we mean when we say unconscious? Can we move to the next slide, sir, please? Thank you. All right. When you say unconscious, it is the part of the mind which is not accessible to the conscious. It is unintentional. You do it without you realizing that you are doing it. But it is important because it affects our behavior and emotions. It affects the way we treat people. It affects the way we react to circumstances. It affects the way we feel about situations and about personalities. So this may include, in the next photo you will see, this may include repressed feelings. Next slide, please. Repressed feelings. What are repressed feelings? These are feelings that you keep to yourselves. Sometimes you understand that it is there, but you do not want to tell it to other people. You do not want to show it. Sometimes you do not even know that it exists, that you are feeling it. It may also include like hidden memories. In the next slide, you will see hidden memories. We unconscious. We do things unconsciously because of hidden memories. You know, sometimes it is natural for a person to be selective in the way that in the things that they want to remember. In psychology, even they say that we have hurtful memories from the womb. That actually when we were still in our mother's womb, we could already hear what other people are saying. And this may be included in hidden memories. It may include also habits and thoughts, things that we continually do. The thoughts, well, studies have shown that we have about 400. I'm not sure of my numbers because, the studies, they show different numbers. There are 400,000 thoughts a day or 60,000 thoughts a day. But one thing is sure, you carry 40,000 of your thoughts today to tomorrow. So can you imagine if you are having negative thoughts, 80%, you have 80% negative thoughts today, you bring that 40% of that the following day. And so the following day, so it compounds. And so at the end of the week, we all have become negative. And that sometimes we are not conscious of that. Now, what about biases? What do we mean when we say biases? Can we go to the next slide? Or there, our habits and our expectations, our thinking patterns, they all are sometimes unconscious. Now, the unconscious becomes conscious when we become aware of it by looking inwardly instead of just always looking outwardly. So the unconscious should become conscious. We bring it to the fore. We should become aware of it. Now, what are some unconscious habits that we may not, that we do? Do you ever find yourself stepping aside? You know, we are all, most of us here are Asians. So, do you find yourself sometimes or oftentimes stepping aside when you see the tall American lady in the next office? Do you find yourself suddenly speechless or without comment when faced with a domineering male worker or when faced with a domineering male classmate? Now, what is a bias? So that is unconscious. We do it without us realizing it. In the next slide, please, we see the meaning of a bias. Bias is an inclination, a prejudice for or against someone, either in favor of or against a particular thing. Sometimes it is also called paradigms or mindsets. Recall the time that you were in an event, a gathering, or a party. I understand maybe it has been a long time since we have been in a gathering, in an event, but just recall, we are all in a lockdown, but just try to recall. You come in alone, and so naturally, the natural tendency of every person when you go to a party alone is to look for a group to join, right? What group did you eventually join? To what group were you naturally attracted to? Because you know, it is true in psychology that we are naturally attracted to people like us. And so we have a bias towards people that are like us. Let me share you a personal story. I studied in De La Salle University for college. De La Salle is one of the top 3 universities in the Philippines. You may call it in American standards, Ivy League. Now, so a lot of powerful, rich, intelligent people, students go there. I am not in those categories, but I was sent to the school because I was the eldest in the family, and so my aunts and my grandparents, they helped for my tuition fee. Now, I came from a local high school, a simple high school. And so what was my attitude when I went to the university? I was naturally inclined to group with people who I felt was simple like me. I was naturally inclined to join people who were, who speaks our local language more than the English language. And I did find myself staying away from people that I felt were very rich or would speak English only. English is their first language and who partied so much. I naturally distanced myself from them. It was a bias. It was an unconscious bias. It was something that I was not aware of. So those are some kind of biases. Now, we are susceptible to bias because of some tendencies. We tend to seek out patterns. Can we go to the next slide, please? Okay, see, we are susceptible to bias because of these tendencies. We tend to seek out behavioral patterns. It is natural for a person to look for patterns and associations in this world. For example, associating certain facial expressions, body language, or certain postures to certain behaviors. Like if, for example, if someone in your school, in your university, or in your workplace is not does not smile easily, then your normal reaction is to avoid that person. Already you are biased towards that person because you just you just avoid that person. You avoid having to work with that person because that person does not smile easily. And what is then our impression? Because he does not smile easily, maybe he is difficult to work with, maybe he has so many problems, and yes, maybe you will not like him. So these are associations. We associate with what we see. What else? We like to take shortcuts. We tend to simplify situations. We minimize, we downplay, and in doing that, we judge. For example, oh, that behavior is expected of her because, she is a woman. Oh, she is like that because, I heard that she is an only child. Oh, she is really like that. She has always been like that. That is how rich people think. You see, we take shortcuts. We do not take time to get to know a person. We do not take time to process things. We just judge easily. Our experience and social conditioning also plays a role, like our cultural conditioning, media portrayals. For example, in my country, the Philippines, we are made up of 7,107 islands. You cannot travel the entire Philippines just by land alone. That is possible in the United States, which is bigger, much, much, much bigger than our country. But in the Philippines, you have to fly or take a boat. You cannot go from one island to another just by your car or just by taking the bus. Now, and therefore, we are culturally diverse. There is a silent feud among people from the north and people from the south, people from the east, people from the west. People from the north, there are many, even if, just for example, people from the north, it is not like because we are from north, we are the same. We are still different. North of Manila, you go from one province to another, you will see that we speak different dialects. People from the south, they have one common dialect but different intonation. They say it differently. So even then, in just one, southern Philippines, just one culture we might think, but it is very diverse. And we have paradigms about each other. There are as many Filipinos as many Indian nationals in the United States. My daughter lives in the US and her husband is an IT professional and therefore he works a lot with Indian nationals. In fact, he goes to India I think twice a year. He would go to Hyderabad. Did I say that correctly? Do you see? I hope you are seeing my necklace. This comes from your beautiful country. So, we, in the United States, for example, there are many Filipino groups. Why? Filipinos from the south, Filipinos from the north, Filipinos from this place, Filipinos from that place. And all of us, we have mindsets about each other. And yes, it is true. We are quite biased. When a Filipino is coming from another place, I do not know how it is in your country, but in my country, it is like that. So you can imagine the complexity of the situation. Now, what are examples of biases? Can we go to the next slide? What are examples of biases? First of all, there is, national ethnicity, like what I was discussing earlier. Due to biases, we often attribute certain qualities of characteristics to a certain group. For example, If, for example, you meet a German, Asians, we are very respectful and we are quite warm. But when you meet someone from Germany or from the United Kingdom, then you will feel that they are quite cold and they are not as friendly. They do not smile as easily as us. In my family and life advocacy, I get to go to many international conferences. And because of my unconscious biases, I am naturally drawn to Asian people because I'm thinking that we would understand each other despite the communication gap, despite the fact that we do not speak the same language, but at least we like the same things as opposed to our European and American conference, to our American or European colleagues. So I would really like in many international conferences, I would really join groups of Asians because I feel these Americans, these Germans, they're just too tall and too white for me. And I'm scared that I would not understand them. And I'm scared that they will not understand me. And this is really not good. Why? Because I could miss out. I could miss out on very beautiful people. In the association of, I am a member of the Association of Image Consultants International. And every 2 years, we have international conferences. The last conference I attended was 4 years ago in Mexico City. And of course, there you meet all the Canadians and the Americans. And yes, I would admit that I am shy. I am quite shy when I talk to them. Maybe because I feel that as Asian, yes, maybe there is still that feeling of inferiority. Maybe I think they're bigger than me. These are unconscious biases based on national ethnicity. Next slide, please. What is another unconscious bias? Gender. Being a male or a female. Even in the LGBT community, how do you behave, for example, for the men in our audience? How do you behave towards your female classmates or female colleagues? For the women in our audience, how do you behave towards your male classmates or your male colleagues? Gender biases is highly visible in the professional setting. For example, employers, managers provide more resources to men other than to women. They say studies have shown that women in sales, they are often assigned inferior accounts compared to their male counterparts. Harvard Business Review presented a study saying that performance evaluations are inherently biased, that men receive more positive positive performance review as compared to the women counterparts. More studies, 42% of women experience gender discrimination in the workplace. In 2017 alone, 25,000 sex-based discrimination claims were filed. Both men and women are twice as likely to hire a male candidate. Women are 25 or 40% more likely to be hired with blind applications. When they do not know when their gender is not known, then there is a greater chance for them to be hired. Half of men believe women are well represented at their company. But it is true that 90% of senior leaders are men. Men view unconscious biases as the number one barrier that women face in their careers. In fact, there is always a hype when women in high positions are voted in a country. Like, for example, in my country, when President Corazon Aquino was elected as president, everybody was in a hype. Why? This is the first lady president. See, just because of gender, people are either happy or not happy. They say because she is a woman, because she is a man. What else? What else are examples of gender biases at work? Constantly making reference to the perceived weakness of a female employee. For example, there are men who are prone to say, "Oh, let me do that for you, honey," or "Oh, honey, oh, you sit there, I will take care of it. You're a woman, you are weak." They don't say that, but that is what they say. For example, your male boss, your male boss has a bad day, like he becomes angry, he becomes emotional. What do we say? "Oh, my boss is angry. Maybe there is a real problem at work." But when a lady boss becomes emotional in the workplace, what do people say? Maybe she's having menopausal problems, or, hormonal problems. She's a woman. She's too emotional. That is a gender bias. Sometimes we women, we are biased towards us, right? If it's many times, we would say, if you want things done, give it to us women, and we will complete the task. See, we prefer people like us, feeling that tasks will be more completed, projects will be more successful if given to people like us. Sometimes in the workplace or even in the universities, when a male say a bad word or an off-color joke, it is okay. It is okay. But when women starts to curse, then you can imagine. When you curse or when you say off-color jokes, then you can just imagine the impact of that in their performance review. They can be deemed as emotional, not objective, just because they are women. There is an age bias. Sometimes the older population in the workplace or in the university will say, those young people, all they want to do is to do TikTok and social media and they are just gamers. They are not serious in their career goals. When as the young, they would say, don't mind her. She is old already. Those old people, they think this way. That is an age bias. There is a social, can we go to the next slide, please? There is also a social class bias. When we go to a poor place, for example, and there is a lot of trash, we say, those poor people, they make our place, they clutter our place, they make the streets very dirty. And but it is true that the rich people, they have bigger trash. They have more carbon footprints because they travel a lot, they buy a lot, and they throw a lot. Sometimes we do not. For example, if we are in a public place and someone is dressed poorly, so we already think, this is a poor guy, then we are more cautious of ourselves. We try to protect our bags, our purses, all our cellular phones. But when we are in a place that could be frequented by the rich people, then maybe we are quite loose in protecting our stuff because we think that the rich, they will not get interested in our bags or in our wallets, in our credit cards. That is a social class bias. Now, how do you manage your unconscious biases then? Next slide, please. But first of all, before the how, the why. Why do we have to manage our unconscious biases? Because sometimes we can miss out. Okay, just stay there, slide. We can miss out on beautiful people. Can you imagine the beautiful people that I avoided when I was in university just because I felt that they were rich, just because I felt that I was not one of them, just because I felt that we did not speak the same language, I was judging them, and therefore I could miss out on some on on their on their innate virtues, on how beautiful they are. It is possible. Now, therefore, so how do you manage your unconscious biases? First of all, I would like to present to you the 5-step thinking system. Our beliefs and we start with identifying our beliefs and clarifying our values. Why? Because our beliefs and values, they influence our thoughts and expectations, which in turn affects our emotions, that influence our behavior, and therefore impacts the action that we take. Now, so therefore it is important for you to identify your belief. Very important to go to the first step in this 5-step thinking system. What do you believe? What do you believe about men? Who are you naturally biased to or against? What do you believe about them? For example, if you are naturally drawn to men, even though you are a woman, why? So therefore, you navigate your belief system. What do you believe about men and women in general? What do you believe about the young and old? What do you believe about high-ranking officials? What do you believe about poor people? What do you believe about rich people? What do you believe about people coming from big countries? What do you believe about people coming from smaller countries, poorer countries? Check your belief system and then try to think who influenced you in thinking that way. I can imagine that like Filipinos, you also grew up in an extended family structure. Like in our household, it's not only our parents that live with us. Some of you live with your grandparents, live with your aunts and your uncles, and all of them. These people, they influence the way we believe, our belief system. So identify your beliefs and then you challenge them. Is what I believe about rich people, is it true? Does it still have meaning to my life today? Is it good for me, this belief system? And therefore, identifying your belief, you are able to challenge it. So therefore, your unconscious becomes conscious. It is very important for us that all our unconscious biases will become conscious, will be drawn to the conscious, so that we become aware of them. Because only when we are aware of it can we actually challenge it. There can only be change when we are aware that there is something to change. Next step, next slide please. There, because beliefs drive actions. Thank you. Next slide please. As you identify your beliefs, it is important for you to clarify your values. What do you value? Why is it important to clarify your values? Because sometimes our values are challenged because of our biases. If, for example, in the workplace, you value accountability or you value teamwork or you value excellent output, how can that happen if you are biased towards some people? So therefore, clarify your values so that in clarifying your values, you are able to move forward. Thank you. Next slide, please. Now, so here are helpful tips on how to manage your unconscious biases. Can we go to the next slide? Slow down. Slow down. Take it easy. Take time to understand. Take time to understand your co-workers. Take time to understand cultures. Take time to process. Stop taking shortcuts. Sometimes we do not like to think much. We feel we are too busy, so we just rush. We rush our judgments. We do not want to challenge our beliefs. We do not want to challenge our thought patterns. So slow down. Slow down. Take time to understand other people. Take time to process situations. Just stop taking shortcuts. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Okay. And then you have to be able to express your feelings in an objective manner. This can help you better understand a person and also to be better understood. You need to practice this. If you need to tell somebody, for example, that you are frustrated or you are angry with the way that a project turned out, then you might need to practice saying it. It is good to process also where you are coming from. Where is your anger? Where is your frustration coming from? It could be from your biases. So take time to express your feelings, but before expressing, take time to practice expressing your feelings. This is a very good tip for married couples and with any partnership, even with a parent and children relationship. You cannot just say what is on your mind. I teach communication skills, communication even in the digital platform, and we always say that you have to think before you click. In the same manner, you think before you speak. Think first. Think first. How is there a better way of saying what you want to say? Are you being objective or are you being emotional? What you are saying, is it coming from an unconscious bias, from a mindset, or is it really objective? So practice. Practice saying it to yourself. Practice in front of the mirror. That would be good, not only for relationships in the workplace, but even in your personal relationships. Celebrate. Next slide, please. Celebrate. Learn how to celebrate. Celebrate uniqueness. Recognize that people are different. Can you imagine how boring we could all be, life would be if we are all the same? So celebrate uniqueness. Celebrate not only success, but also failures. Now you may ask me, how do you even celebrate failures? By telling ourselves and others the learnings from the failure. What did you learn from that failure? Celebrate that. At least you learned a new lesson today. By acknowledging, we also need to acknowledge that failures are not fatal. In the same manner that success, it is never final. So take time to celebrate. Celebrate not only big successes, but small successes. Celebrate baby steps. Thank you. Next slide, please. When you celebrate, then somehow there is a chance. Okay, going back to celebrate, ladies and gentlemen, when you celebrate, there is somehow a change in your mindsets, in your biases. Amy Cuddy, a social scientist, says that our body speaks to our mind. So when we smile, when we clap, when we cheer, when we celebrate, then you will notice that there will be a change in your way of thinking. You become more positive about peoples and situations. You become more inclusive. You begin to embrace differences when you celebrate. Next, avoid triangles. What are triangles? You notice you become angry or frustrated with somebody, but you refuse to tell that to the person. Instead, you say that to another person. And therefore, the two of you is against one person. Worst is, sometimes it is not only a triangle, but many, many sides. because you keep on talking about it to other people except to the person involved. So, in order for you to work better with others, avoid anxiety in the workplace, have better relationships, you can manage your unconscious biases by avoiding triangles, by telling a person directly what you have against him or her. Again, what I said before about being able to express your feelings, you just have to practice. Again, where are we coming from? If you are like most Filipinos, if you are like most Asians, if you are like us Filipinos, then the way we were brought up is influences the creation of triangles. Filipinos, for example, are told when they are young, when we were young by our parents, never mind, do not speak, do not say what you have, you might hurt the person. But then, talking against another person behind his back is more damaging. While, however, when you tell the person directly, then it is possible that you will become good friends, better friends, because you have been honest with your feelings. Again, as you talk, you do not just say what is on your mind, but you practice recognizing that intonation, how we say it, is also a very important factor in the way what we are saying is perceived by the other person. So it is not just words, but the intonation, the tone of our voice, even the speed, the rate of how we say it, and of course, our body language. If we tell a person what we don't like about him, looking at that person, making eye contact, smiling, and leaning forward that person, then maybe you don't have to say too much, because already your body language is telling that person that what you are about to say is for his own good. So instead of you grouping, creating cliques against a person because, she is from the northern part, she is like that, let's not talk to her. Instead of doing that, then avoid triangles. Just include that person. Get to know that person and celebrate all your differences. That is what makes the world a beautiful place to live in. Our inherent differences. Okay, next. And then, of course, I said this already, smile. Smile, is it the next slide? You smile. Smile, try to smile. Okay, just click. Here. So these are the slides for, how we should talk to other people. So lean forward, be mindful of your hands, because if you're doing that, then that is already communicating that you are not very open, that maybe you think that that other person is not telling the truth. Okay, therefore smile. And the last slide, please. And the next slide. Just the facts. Focus on the facts. Manage your biases by focusing on the facts. When something has to be discussed, do not think that you will do it this way, or do not go before the meeting. Already you are thinking, she will not be accepting of what I will tell her because, she's a rich girl. She came from this and from that. Or maybe she will not understand me because she is not from where I come from. Just focus on the facts, and you will see that your relationships, not only in school, in the workplace, but in the home, will be so much better. Do we have another slide, or is this the end? Can we go to the next slide? Let me see. Okay, all right. So, just flash everything. So, in a conversation, in a situation, remember that it is not about winning. It is about resolving. So if you want a better workplace, a better home, Don't try to win conversations, but try to resolve. And only when you are able to identify your biases and challenge them can you actually resolve matters. I will open the floor now for some questions. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Are there questions?
Yes, yes, sure, ma'am. Yeah, the first question is, what is important to know about bias?
Important to know about bias. Oh, so many things. But okay, important to know bias is that sometimes it it is a stumbling block to what we want to achieve. If we are biased towards certain people, then it is a stumbling block to creating a relationship with those people. And you do not know. Many opportunities can come from that person. You do not know a beautiful you could possibly be missing out on on a beautiful relationship just because you are biased. If you are, for example, biased, if you are young and you have a bias towards the older people, then you can be missing out on their wisdom. You refuse to listen to them just because you are biased towards them. So you miss out. Yes, that is the most important thing about biases. You can miss out. And if you are like
Yes,
most young people, you know FOMO, right? You have a fear of missing out. So if you don't want to miss out on beautiful people, beautiful opportunities, situations, growth, wisdom, then challenge your biases.
yes. So there are many factors that we will miss out.
Yes, many problems will be solved.
Yes. And can biases be helpful in our workplace or in personal life?
Oh, yes, yes. Biases can be helpful because for example, in our personal life, we tend to go towards people that are like us. In a way, that is helpful, but again, it is better to break biases because they are more harmful than helpful.
Yes.
So just break them. Just again, focus on the facts, avoid triangles, challenge your belief system, clarify your values, celebrate uniqueness. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So if we come to know about the biases, then we should try to resolve it, right?
Yes, we try to resolve it. We try to understand where we are coming from. Why am I biased towards this person? Sometimes you do not like a person or you like a person because bias is for or against. Sometimes you dislike or like so much a person and you do not understand why. So you have to go back to the 5-step thinking process. Why do I not like this person? Or why am I so drawn to this person? What is it with this person? So you identify your belief. Could it be an example, a thought, a teaching, something that my parents told me when we were young, when I was young? Could it be coming from that? Could it be an experience with this kind of group of persons? Maybe you had either a beautiful or a negative experience towards a person. Then there is a bias for or against. So you try to go back
Resolve.
to your
Yes.
belief. Going back to your belief system is really very helpful. Always ask yourself, where am I coming from?
So treat equally with all the people. Right?
I know, like we are Asians, right?
Yes.
When I am in the US, for example, and I go to the big groceries there, I do
Okay.
find I do find myself stepping aside when there is an American, you know that question I included in my teaching, that was me. I would find myself I'm not very comfortable with them.
Okay.
Why? Maybe because I'm thinking, coming from what my parents told me, that we Asians are not that they, or maybe they are superior to me
Yes,
because they,
exactly, exactly.
right.
It is
But
brought in our mind from childhood only, right?
yes, it broadens our mind. Yes, you need to broaden your mind always. But you know, if you watch American shows, they are beautiful people. My daughter who lives in the U.S., my friends who live, they have very good friends who are Americans.
Yes, actually, they don't have any botheration for that, right? But it is our about thought that we are thinking about these
It is
biases.
us. It is us.
Yes,
It is
us. Yes, it is us that we are thinking about it.
not them. You are right
Yes,
there.
yeah. So, ma'am, how can we deal with the biases if in workplace or in personal life? You give some points, right, that celebrate the uniqueness and all that thing. But how can we deal with that if there is some biases in our workplace or personal life?
How? What is the question? How can?
How can we deal with that?
How can we? I'm sorry, I don't get the word.
If there is some biases in our mind at our workplace or in our personal life for some people, right? Then how can we remove it?
Oh,
How
how
can
can
we
we
deal
remove?
with that? Yes, how
Oh,
can
how
we
can
deal
we
with that?
remove? Yes, yes. Try to know more about the person. Just get out of your comfort zone because with biases, sometimes we are uncomfortable towards a person. So get out of your comfort zone and just make the first move of saying hello, smiling. Try to get to know that person. Focus on the facts. And that is beneficial. That will help you when you know more about a person. Then I I am a firm believer in the inherent goodness of every person. So getting to know a person, you get to know how good that person is, and even discover many similarities between you and that person. So can you imagine if you are just saying no, oh, I don't like to join the organizations because I don't like meetings or I don't like to share about my life. You know, you are missing out not only on experiences but in opportunities. Many of the things that I am enjoying right now is because of my effort to to manage my biases. Like I refuse to be in a box. I refuse to just stay here. I would reach out. And so I have forged many friendships across the globe. And yes, I am faced with many opportunities like this one, speaking
Yes,
before you. This is an
yes,
example. Mr. Hamal, if, for example, I am biased towards men inviting me to a webinar through LinkedIn, then maybe I would not be talking to you right now. And
yes,
again, as I shared with you earlier, you were my first virtual webinar last year during the lockdown. I thought my speaking engagements were done and over with COVID, but I saw that I enjoyed doing it. So you see, I refuse to be biased towards virtual trainings.
yes.
I just opened my mind to it, and I did a lot of projects last year because I opened my mind to it.
Yes. So be confident, open your mind, and
Confident, open your
negative
mind.
thinking, we should not also think negative, also, right? I think
We should not also think,
negative.
oh yeah,
Negative thoughts, yeah.
yes, and when you're always thinking negative, then you are not smiling, you are not talking to people, and you will grow older than your years.
Yes, that is true, ma'am. And I think, according to you, we should always try to take first step towards anyone, I think.
Yes, yes, it is okay to take the first step. I would always say just walk across the room. For example,
Yes,
you are in an event, in an event and you are alone. Do not look at, oh, who do I like here? Just walk across the room and talk to the person who is not talking to anyone.
yes. And don't wait for the person who will take the first step. If he or she is not taking, yes, move on.
Right. Don't wait. Maybe that person is too shy. Then
Yeah,
crush, challenge your shyness and your biases and just walk across the room.
yes. And uh, what triggers unconscious bias, ma'am?
What triggers?
Unconscious bias.
Oh, when we are faced with something different or similar. When we're, it, it's always there. Because unconscious is you're not aware of it. So it's usually always there. And what triggers it? It's either if it is a bias against a person, it is seeing a person different from us, or being presented in a situation that we are not we are not very aware of, or that is not something that is natural for us, being in a situation that is in a different environment. That would trigger be biases for being seeing a group that is similar to us, and then we are naturally drawn to that group, then naturally we become friendly to them. Many situations, even just for example commuting to work, for example in a train, when you see a man, a father for example, not minding a child who is cluttering in the train, eating in the train, then already you are biased. Already you have a judgment. You say, ah, what is this man doing? He is not a good father. But you do not know that maybe he is undergoing trials. So you see, so we never know what a person is undergoing. So crush your biases and just walk across the room. And do not judge. Judgment is
Yes,
about when you
yes,
are biased, then you judge. They
yes.
go
Do
hand
not.
in hand.
Yes, that's true. Do not judge any person at that moment of time.
At that moment of time. Yes, that is
Yes.
not fair to that person.
Yes, it may be the situation that he may be reacting for that moment.
Right? Yes, maybe facing a difficulty that it is not fair.
Yes, that's true. Yes, ma'am. How do biases influence human behavior, ma'am?
Oh, so much, because you see the 5-step thinking process, our thoughts and our beliefs influence our thoughts, influences our behavior. So for example, if you are biased towards a person, for a person, then maybe you behave more lightly, you are smiling more often, you are more talkative, you are very open, you share stories. But if you are faced with a person you are biased against, then maybe you are stiff, then you will not be sharing too much, you are watchful of the words that you say. In all ways, it affects our behavior. If, for example, there is a situation that you like, then you are more unexperienced that you like, then your body is just enjoying it. But when you are in a situation that you don't like, then maybe you collapse and you have high blood pressure and you are not smiling and you are frowning and you have anxiety. And then maybe the way you walk, the way you are sitting, that is a behavior that is influenced. If it is something that you don't like, then maybe as you walk, your shoulders are, not straight and you are looking down because you don't like the situation.
Yes, that's true, ma'am. Sometimes at our workplace also, ma'am, we feel that with students also we are biased sometimes,
Oh,
not always.
yeah.
And we try to move, as you told, that move backward some steps. So we try to move backward and see the situation or judge the situation of the student. So that
Do not worry, madam. In the same manner, they have biases towards their professors.
yes. That is true. They are also biased with the professors. It is give and take relation.
It works both ways.
Yes.
Yes.
Every
Like,
coin has two sides.
like this is a confession. Maybe if I am asked to conduct a seminar with American audience, maybe I would be more scared.
Yes, yes, that
But you
is
are my neighbors. You are my neighbors. An Indian national live across me. We are very good friends. So you are my neighbor. So I am very comfortable with you. We are Asian neighbors. But maybe if I'm asked by for example, European, I would say, there are better speakers than me.
yes. But we have to move out of our comfort zone and accept the thing and move
Yes,
on.
we have to move out so that we do not miss out on a unique and beautiful experience.
Yes, that may be a good opportunity for our life also, ma'am. As you told, that webinar
This
is
is,
fruitful to you.
okay, my own life story. I started by teaching encompasses like over 25 years. But professionally as an image consultant, I started 6 years ago. I am turning 61. I was 55 when I got certified. If I was biased against my age, if I said, "Oh, I'm 55 already," there is no more place for me, then I would have missed out on the beautiful members of AICIs, two of whom have been your speakers. Miss Tony and Miss Delby are such good friends. I would have missed out on the beautiful experience of an international conference, on speaking before beautiful people like you. I could have missed out on that because I was biased towards age.
Yes. Age is just a number, ma'am. I think.
I so agree with you. I agree with you so much.
Yes. And I think you don't look.
Much I have 4 grandchildren to this day.
Okay, yes. Thank you so much, ma'am, for giving us your valuable time. It was nice meeting you again.
My pleasure to be with you again. I will tell Mr. Hemant if I have a new topic that I can share with you again. I would be happy to be back if you still
Sure.
want.
Sure. Sure, ma'am. Waiting for that again, ma'am.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that. Thank you, and all of you have a pleasant afternoon ahead of you. Thank
Yes.
you.
Yes, I would like to thank you, the head of our department, Mr. Hemal Patel, sir, the HR of our institute, Professor Jatin Vaidya, sir, our academic director, Dr. Mahesh Bhatt, sir, and president of our university, Dr. Devanshu Patel, sir, for motivating and supporting us continuously. Last but not the least, I would like to thank you all the participants who enabled here for this beautiful webinar. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Bye
And
bye.
yes, waiting for you again, ma'am, to meet you again.
I will see you again.
Yes,
Bye.
bye.